What's going on with y'all, man? I gotta talk to my people. Do y'all really believe in history? Do you really believe the historical narrative that was given to us in the school system? Because the cool thing about life is that no matter what age we all get in the working force of America, we all went to high school. We all went through the 12-step grade school programming. So we all have that shared conscious collective reality of what's accepted to be true, which is history. Mathematics, science, English, the language that we use, all the same thing, all of the scholastic academic programming that they put into us, and you got to pass through this, your GED, your general education diploma, basically saying that your ass can read and add and subtract and multiply and divide shit so you can work a job that AI is going to soon take over. But are y'all really telling me that you believe in history? And the reason I'm questioning this is because my last video, as of January 17th, 2026, 20 views and only 2 likes. So that fucking tells me that a lot of y'all is not rocking with that understanding, that thought process, that perspective, that all history is simply conjecture and all this shit could be fake, at least up until the 1900s. Truly 1800s and back, none of us can really say what is what and who is who and where and how it happened, because it's just too many theories, too much speculation, too much ideas of what they call phantom timelines, all of these dynasties re-popping up and just fucking historical events being pushed further, really pushed further back, quote unquote, like the Egyptian dynasty, the Greeks, the Romans. Basically, there's theories saying that that shit happened within the past 400, 500 years, and now we're in the new current regime of life. All right? No perspective, some shit to think about. Let me be clear. I could very well understand that this could be an attack on your pride in a sense, an attack on your intellectual pride and your knowledge and your thoughts of what you believe, what you know to be true, how you defend history, how you defend your perspective, politics, whatever it is, history, this, you're debating, you're looking at other people debating. But you must understand one thing, y'all. My teachings, my spiritual mindset, what I put forth, this philosophy, stems greatly from the Kabbalion. And essentially, that book has the 4th law of the universe called the law of polarity. And it simply states that for every single thing, there is a direct and equal opposite. So to really bring that down into our human nature of how we live, there will always be 2 sides debating. There will always be one person on this pole and the other person on this pole saying, this is true, this is real, your facts are wrong, what you're saying is not right, and you need to listen to what I'm saying because I researched and discovered it better. I listened to this teacher and he said it better. He said it different. Truly, it's all lower nature human ego shit to want to prove yourself right, to need to be validated and approved and have people agree with you on your historical narrative, shit that happened 5,000, 4,000, 300, 400, 500 years ago, trying to actually depict what the fuck, what was what. Because none of us could truly know. It's conjecture, y'all. Summary, theory, a thought process. Okay, again, I could get down to the conspiracy theory of it as well. The Rockefeller school system, look who gave us the history. Look who is in charge of the world right now. Why the fuck would they tell us what is actually true and how life came to be? How, in what way would that be in their best interest? It would be 10 times more in their best interest to shape and paint the picture of what they want you to believe than they get you to think and move and believe in a certain format to keep the system going and to keep everyone programmed and them on top and you at the bottom. It's way more likely that that is the case, because why wouldn't they do it? Same thing we do with children. Tell them that Santa Claus is real. Tell them that Santa Claus is eating the cookies that is left out and the milk and is bringing some gifts and coming down the chimney. And truly, that's just witchcraft, because Christmas and Thanksgiving and New Year's and Valentine's Day and Easter is all pagan holidays. All of this shit is witchcraft. All of this shit is deeply steeped into occultic, symbolic witchcraft, pagan holidays that we all participate and give our money, veneration, a ritual sacrifice, truly leaving an offering to a deity named Krampus or Santa Claus or Saint Nick, whatever you want to fucking call it. But that Christmas spirit, that's all paganism. That's all witchcraft. That's all shit that's quote unquote unholy from a true divine holy perspective, whatever made up thing that even is. Okay, so understand one other thing, y'all. Most of the historical doctrine that we get comes from the church. It comes from the religious church, sanctified format people, the Vatican, Rome, all of this shit. Those are the ones who basically write and script all of our historical texts and say, this is real, this is this, and this is that. And most scientists and historians can be atheists and don't even know that they're going off the church doctrine. See, most people's mind is already above a certain level of skepticism. You're already not trusting in the system. You're already not trusting in the government. So why are you trusting in history? Why are you trusting that George Washington was truly the first president of the United States? Because that shit was the 1700s. And when you trace it back that far, you can clearly see that, yo, shit could have been real fishy. Allegedly, the story goes, in the Tartaria theory, mud flood theory, high building electricity, high free energy theory of a society that was here on the Americas before us, that shit says that happened 200 years ago. And then what we call the American Revolution, or truly the Civil War in 1800s, that was actually the first taking over of the American people, of the native Indians. That's what the Civil War, allegedly from this Tartaria theory, was. And when you really think about it, how could they have really brought so many slaves over from a fucking boat on Africa? So many slaves packed in these dense, fucked up, dirty, nasty conditions. Where's they getting the food from to survive this 3-month voyage on a ship with all of these dirty slaves with no circulation and air vents, no air conditioning, low food storage, and just a bunch of white men with maybe, did they even have guns? Or did they just have swords and some shit to capture a bunch of strong black slaves living tribal? Or was a slave trade already happening in Africa, as history will tell you? But again, the conjecture of it and the ideas and all of the summaries and all of the thoughts, all of the perspectives will continuously come up. It will continuously be someone saying, no, this is really how it happened. No, this is really what happened. No, it happened this way because of this. No, Tartaria and the mud flood, and they really just came and took over within the past 200 years. You know, let's refer to a Tartaria book. So what do I mean when I mention Tartaria? It is this: the one world Tartarians, essentially an empire, a great civilization that spanned Russia, the Americas, and Europe, because the theory goes that the white man truly didn't capture America and the Native Americans from the East Coast and the Atlantic, but they truly went from the Russian border, crossed the Bering Strait into Alaska, and came in through that way. Now, just imagine if all history has really been rescripted and rewritten and it's something totally different from what we've been led to believe. But I'm going to go in on a little bit of this. The first chapter, I know I got a lot of highlights. I was researching this about a year ago. Again, the deeper you go. But then the deeper you go into your spirituality and shit, damn near your logic, you just realize that all things are truly just conjecture, an argument, a statement, people assuming, people believing, people agreeing on this. Oh, here we go. And referring to the K-ball, reliable. Law 4, the law of polarity. And let's flip to this before we even get to the historical context laid out in Tartaria. Everything is dual, everything has its poles, everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature but different in degree. Extremes meet, all truths are but half truths. all paradoxes may be reconciled. The great fourth Hermetic principle embodies the truth that two poles, everything has two sides. Two sides, everything has two sides, two aspects, two poles, a pair of opposites with manifold degrees in between the two extremes. So it is simply telling you that every single thing that you see has a flip extreme polarity perspective or thought or view on it. Is it complex to grasp? Let's minimize it to make it simple. Simplify it. The Hermetic teachings are to the effect that the difference between things seemingly diametrically opposed to each other is merely a matter of degree. It teaches that the pair of opposites may be reconciled and that thesis and antithesis are identical in nature but different in degree. A thesis over here is a conclusion, and an antithesis is the anti-conclusion of that thesis. It is the it is the opposite perspective. But this book, The Law of Polarity, is claiming that both things are the same thing, a conclusion just on the different scale. You're concluding something, you're making an assumption. It's thought, it's life at the end of the day, it's vibration. It's really just words that we put on this human experience, if you really want to get down to it. But again, it is the effect the teachers claim that the illustrations of the principle may be held on one hand, and from examination into the real nature of anything, they begin by showing that spirit and matter are but two poles of the same thing, the intermediate planes being merely degrees of vibration. Spirit, the highest form of life, all the way down to the physical gross form in which we call matter, the 3D. And you got the mental plane right there in the middle, your brain in control of it all, truly. Good and bad are not absolute. We call one end of the scale good and the other bad, or one end good and the other evil. According to the use of these terms, a thing less good than a thing higher in the scale, but less good thing turns out to be more good than the thing next below it. It's all just degrees. You have 1 degree here, and this is good. And this thing's a little less good, but this thing is even less good than this thing that's less good than this thing. You see what I mean? It's all just on the pole, everything in life. There is truly no absolute, other than what you create in your mind, other than what you come to believe. But absolutism is actually a bad mindset to fall into, from my perspective. Everything is relative, truly. The absolute is actually just these laws right here, which is the certainty of life. So it is absolutely certain that, truly with this law of polarity, the main thing y'all want to grasp and understand is that somebody can always argue an opinion. There will always be an opposing side to what somebody is saying, to what you're saying, to what you believe, to how you want to do things. And that's why you can argue and go back and forth all day and all night and all long. Even in your own brain, you can go back and forth all day and all night and all long, just on the polarity of your own mind and your thoughts and what you've been programmed with, what this person saying, what this person said, how they should say, how they want you to do it, how they believe it, how they said it is. And then you worried about this. And ultimately, history just gets you stuck in the past. Truly, y'all, it's chronology. It's a record of past events. But they call it history. Like, that shit is a clear, blatant spell right there in your face. His story. Now, if you want to go for it, go for it. But we live in a very evil, fucked up, and backwards world. And it's a lot of evidence that points to the fact that they would just fucking rewrite history if they have the chance to do that. And maybe when they fucking did take over, they just put time in place. And then once they put time in place, they could easily recreate the fucking history and patterns of time. Time probably didn't even exist on this land. We were living tribal and cyclical and in the nature and the trees and the sun. Then they came over and gave us time and religion and their fucking way of life. And slowly over years, hundreds of years, and we truly don't know how many generations it's been, they have rewritten and re-sculpted our minds and the way we live and the way we think. All through time. The 24-hour calendar cycle, all that shit comes from the Pope and the Vatican and Rome and the Scalagranian chronologist and the history account that we all go off of, but it truly has very little validity and it's very suspect modern day. Courage and fear come under the same rule. The pair of opposites exist everywhere. Where you find one thing, you will find the other. Two poles of the same thing. So yes, y'all. Law of polarity, very important one, because even flat earth versus round earth is another super polarized dialectic, and that's how they manipulate the world, through polarization dialectics. They manipulate the world simply because the world does not understand at least how the laws of morality and the true laws of life are just in this. But then they end up being able to recreate and structure a whole matrix through understanding this. Then you understand the mind and psychology. And this was released in 1913, if you want the historical background of that, when America was young and thriving, when fucking World War I was about to take place, and then World War II. More chances for the victors to continuously rewrite history. So, Tartaria. Let's get into it really quickly. All right, y'all. Page 28, this simply says, I will flash it real quick so y'all can see. The kid is a highlighter, highlights a lot of things in all of my books that I read, especially this one. I vividly remember when I got it, super excited, super tapped in, so much perspective, so much to fucking see, think about, conclude. I want to just continuously flash this for y'all, just so y'all can get a real breakdown and understanding of how deep this study goes into exactly how this fucking reality could have been very much simply taken over in a very recent time. And we're giving very a different set of belief systems and thoughts about how life came to be. All right, so we are actually going to start on page 14. More highlights, more insights. My brain was more tapped in these pages. So let's see what it's all about. Tartaria, originally pronounced Tartaria with the first R, is the name of the pre-Mongolian empire that originated in northern Asia before spanning the entire northern hemisphere. Great Tartaria was the largest empire during its time and would still have been the largest empire today. The denotation of lost souls spending eternity in Tartarus, the underworld, is due to the Tartarian Empire having been buried and wiped during the liquefaction, mud flood events, earthquakes, volcanoes, and weather manipulation used directly to bury the history along with eliminate the moon calendar and replace it with the Roman Catholic Sun Gregorian calendar in 1582, allegedly, which I just said. They literally came in and replaced whatever cycle keeping astrology, seasons, day and night system of life and events, chronology, and then reduced it into something called time, and allegedly the year 1582, the Roman Catholic Sun Gregorian calendar. Again, this page details exactly who the Tartarians are, what they all about, and kind of how the fucking alleged conspiracy of the destruction of America and the natives and the Tartarians themselves, which we just call them, truly is just a name. And there is a place in Europe called Tartar. You should look into it. They have festivals every year. It look pretty fucking cool. But sadly, they're probably just the last remains of the Tartarians. Okay, let's see. The world of the Tartarians is literally the world of the underworld. The Tartarians, the Tartars, were the indigenous people, quite possibly founded by Noah's sons, making up the world-renowned Tartarian Empire. Amongst the Tartarians were tall people averaging some 8 to 12 feet in height. God damn, that's a claim. They would have been considered giants to our current average height of only around 6 feet. However, back then, the height 10 feet was average, like the civilizations before then. Heights average 12 feet tall, blah, 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 blah. Okay, let's get down to some brass tacks. Moscow, Tartaria was conquered by the Romanovs in the middle of the 19th century. Samarkand, the capital of the independent Tartary, was seized by the Romanov army in 1868. According to the maps of the 18th century, the border of Moscow Tartary was very close to Moscow. Such a dangerous proximity greatly concerned the Romanovs. It was possible that it was the reason for Peter the Great to make a decision to relocate the capital away from St. Petersburg to the swampy coast of Gulf Finland, where the New World Order was built. St. Petersburg, the location was convenient for the Romanovs. The capital was far away from the Hordorian Tartary known as the Great Horde, and the subsequent term hoarding, meaning to take more than you need, which was completely against the Tartary mantra of just give back more than you take. In the case of an invasion from the Siberian American horde, it would be easier to flee from the west to St. Petersburg than from Moscow. So essentially, the historical timeline truly goes, if you really trace back to simply as far as 1922 in Russia, Vladimir Lenin was a key figure in shaping what is modern day Russia and communism, and essentially, potentially tied deeply in with the New World Order or the occult or the hidden hand or the Illuminati elite of elite. And Lenin was tied in with them and the people that would slowly form what would become this governmental global New World Order scheme. And of course, he was picking up steam because it was 1922 when he was in charge, Vladimir Lenin. But this is just describing simply as far back as 1868 when the hordes took over the Romanov dynasty. And if you look into the history of Russia, you will see things about the Romanov dynasty. So it's like a convergence between the accepted historical timeline that we accept and agree to. There's a convergence between that and this Tartarian information of how that great empire that spanned Northern Asia and Russia and the Americas got taken over. And who knows, Africa too. It's just so much fishy shit about how America became to be, what the history of life is, who took over Africa, what is what, how did it come to be? It's truly very fishy. But if you accept it without having a little bit of skepticism to it, that's on you. Let the cards fall where they may. Moscow Tartary spanned the Urus subject, a lot of names, a lot of dates. The conflict between Moscow Tartary and Romanov Russia, originally small in size, ended in the second half of the 18th century with the famous, allegedly peasant war against the Pugachevs. The Romanovs succeeded in agreeing peace separately with the Turkey and defeating the Great Tartaria. Only after the European immigrants who had settled on the Atlantic seaboard of North America ventured west inland for the continent. Okay. Political phantom theory that I wrote down here myself. I'm gonna read this to y'all because it'll probably help me download a little bit better because this is a lot of fucking information and random thoughts and perspectives. People in Northern Europe and Eastern Europe slowly but surely made their way to conquer potentially melanated Tartarians who had their civilization spanning Eastern Russia, primarily then people all throughout Asia, Siberia, Far East, Alaska, and America, raped, pillaged, whitewashed everyone, and took over major technology weapons to gain control. Sounds pretty fucking accurate. But that's my little side note of how shit really went down. And if you tracing it as far back as the 1860s, then that goes to show that all of American history will be fake. And that goes to show why in 1913, the federal banking system was created by Woodrow Wilson. That just goes to show why all of this globalism, Trilateral Commission, Bilderberg Group, League of Nations, United Nations, all of this shit seems to be real. And it seems to be the only way that they could keep all of the citizens under huge fucking human captivity without them banning up against them. Because really the percentage is like 98 to 2% of all of the people that are truly like aware of them being in full control and taking over the world. But it's just the military and police that keeps everybody in line and in order, blah, blah, blah. But the citizens plus military and police could easily flip the switch and take over the world. But the consciousness and the subconsciousness program so deeply to not even see your enemy in plain sight, to not even question your whole reality, to not even question what you've been getting your whole life from school, from books, from history, from your teachers, knowing it's a whole agenda to just keep you sleeper, to just keep you working, to just keep you docile, to keep the system going, to keep pride in your country. Because like I said, it is the first step to tackling your pride, tackling what you thought you knew, tackling what you think you believe. That is true occult breakdown. So like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, a lot of my perspective and understanding and perspective stems from that simple perspective of breaking down and looking into the hidden, facing your ignorance, facing what you haven't ignored, facing what you have not thought of, facing the opposite polarity of what you have come to believe and think. It's all a caught within your life, within your personal life. Then this mental and historical and spiritual shit, which it ultimately leads to, is really big and important too, because if everybody is swimming in piss and you the only one swimming in water, but they telling you crazy, then hey, let the chips fall where they may. Yeah, man. I'll probably study this a little bit more, get a little bit more reminded of it in my own brain, because again, that's all we're doing is reminding ourselves of information. Any financial information, any historical information, any economic information, any relationship information, the whole fucking covered and fell. But any information that y'all ever tap into, if you take a break from it and come back 4 years later, you're really only reminding yourself. So have full courage and know that you can always just re-tap in and neuroplasticity your brain into some financial literacy, some historical context, some conspiracy theories, some understanding of how to deal with a relationship, how to have a boyfriend, have a girlfriend, have a wife, raise a kid, eat healthy, how to work out. You can always just tap right back in, plug that neuroplasticity right back in, and all you're doing is reminding yourself. So I'm gonna remind myself a little bit of this in this historical context, because I damn sure gotta get y'all on that fence, on that side of the fence, understanding that history is all motherfucking conjecture. With that being said, I love y'all. Stay God.